Ex-girlfriend who slept with my brother the day before our wedding comes to me 12 years later. A week before my wedding, I got revenge on her. Looking back, my life seemed like a series of carefully constructed chapters, each leading to the next with a sense of purpose and clarity. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who always had a plan. My brother, on the other hand, was the wild card, always getting into trouble and relying on me to bail him out. Despite our differences, we were close, and I always believed that family came first. I met Jenna in college. She was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Smart, beautiful, and full of life. Our relationship blossomed quickly, and it wasn't long before we were talking about spending the rest of our lives together. My brother, Jake, seemed genuinely happy for me, and I was grateful to have his support. Little did I know that the bond one thought we shared would be shattered in the most unimaginable way. The day before our wedding, my world came crashing down. I discovered that Jenna and Jake had slept together. The betrayal was a knife to the heart, and the pain was indescribable. In an instant, everything I had believed about love, trust, and family was obliterated. I called off the wedding, cut ties with both Jenna and Jake, and spent the next decade trying to piece my life back together. Now, 12 years later, just as I was about to embark on a new chapter with someone else, Jenna reappeared, threatening to unravel everything once again. In the years that followed the betrayal, I worked hard to rebuild my life. The pain of Jenna's and Jake's actions left deep scars, but I was determined not to let it define me. I threw myself into my career, finding solace in the structure and predictability of work. I moved to a new city, made new friends, and slowly, the wounds began to heal. My relationship with my family remained strained. Jake's betrayal had created a rift that seemed impossible to bridge. Family gatherings were awkward and tense, with everyone tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. My parents tried to mediate, but the trust between Jake and me was shattered beyond repair. Despite the distance, I never stopped hoping that one day we might find a way to mend our broken relationship. Before continuing the story, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Then I met Lisa. She was different from anyone I had ever known. Kind, understanding, and incredibly supportive. She knew about my past and the hurt I had endured, yet she never judged me for it. Our relationship grew steadily, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe in love again. When I proposed to her, it felt like a fresh start, a chance to finally leave the past behind. Little did I know that the past had other plans, waiting to resurface at the most inopportune moment. As the date for my wedding with Lisa approached, everything seemed to be falling into place. We were excitedly planning every detail, from the venue to the guest list, eager to start our new life together. But amid the joy and anticipation, I couldn't completely shake off the lingering shadows of my past. Trust issues, though greatly diminished, still occasionally gnawed at me, reminders of the betrayal I had endured. Then, out of nowhere, Jenna re-entered my life. It was a week before the wedding, and her unexpected appearance was like a bombshell. She reached out to me through social media, claiming she needed to talk urgently. My first instinct was to ignore her, to protect the fragile happiness I had worked so hard to build. But curiosity and unresolved anger got the better of me, and I agreed to meet her. Seeing Jenna again was surreal. She looked almost the same, but there was a desperation in her eyes I hadn't seen before. She told me she had made a mistake all those years ago and had regretted it ever since. She pleaded for forgiveness and hinted at wanting to rekindle what we once had. Her timing couldn't have been worse. Here she was, trying to stir up old wounds just as I was on the verge of a new beginning. My mind raced with questions and suspicions. Why now? What was she really after? As Jenna spoke, I felt a mix of anger and confusion. Her sudden reappearance seemed too calculated, too coincidental. I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to her story than she was letting on. I decided to dig deeper, to find out what had really brought her back into my life after all these years. In the days following our meeting, I started to investigate. I combed through her social media profiles, looking for clues. I even reached out to mutual acquaintances from our past. What I discovered painted a different picture from the one she had presented. Jenna had recently gone through a rough patch, lost her job, ended a messy relationship, and was struggling financially. Her plea for forgiveness now seemed like a desperate attempt to find some semblance of stability. But there was more. I found out that she had been in contact with Jake. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My brother, who had betrayed me once before, was somehow involved in this mess again. This revelation fueled my suspicion and anger. It was clear that Jenna and Jake had conspired, either directly or indirectly, to disrupt my life just as I was about to start a new chapter. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I knew I had to confront them both and uncover the full truth. With a heavy heart and a steely resolve, I arranged to meet Jake. We hadn't spoken in years, and the prospect of facing him again filled me with dread and anger. The confrontation was inevitable, though, and I needed answers. We met at a quiet cafe, the tension palpable as we exchanged pleasantries. It was clear that he knew something was coming. I wasted no time in cutting to the chase. "Why has Jenna come back into my life, and what have you got to do with it?" I demanded, my voice barely masking the anger simmering beneath the surface. Jake looked taken aback, but quickly composed himself. He confessed that Jenna had reached out to him recently, looking for help and advice. She had shared her regrets about the past and her current struggles, and he had felt some twisted sense of obligation to assist her. However, he insisted that he had no idea she planned to contact me or disrupt my upcoming wedding. Despite his words, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Jake's admission, though partial, confirmed my worst fears. The past was trying to claw its way back into my life, and the two people who had once shattered my trust were at the center of it. Determined to protect my future with Lisa, I decided it was time to take control of the situation. I would confront Jenna one last time, not out of curiosity or anger, but to make it clear that she had no place in my life anymore. I arranged to meet Jenna in a public place, choosing a quiet park where we could talk without causing a scene. As I approached, I could see the tension in her posture, the uncertainty in her eyes. This time, I was determined to stay composed and not let my emotions get the better of me. "Why now, Jenna?" I asked, my voice steady. "Why come back after all these years, right before my wedding?" She sighed, looking down at her hands. "I messed up, and I've regretted it every day since. I thought you might still care, might want to give us another chance." Her words were a painful echo of a past I had worked so hard to leave behind. "You and Jake destroyed everything," I said. "You don't just get to walk back into my life and expect forgiveness, especially not now." Jenna looked up, her eyes pleading. "I know it was wrong. I was lost and made a terrible mistake. But seeing you happy, moving on without me, I couldn't handle it." Her admission only fueled my resolve. "You need to understand, Jenna. I've moved on. I'm about to marry someone who truly loves and respects me. You need to let go and stop trying to drag me back into the past." She started to say something, but I cut her off. "This is the last time we speak. I've given you more chances than you deserve. It's time for both of us to move on. Goodbye, Jenna." As I walked away, I felt a sense of closure. The past was still painful, but I was finally ready to leave it behind and focus on the future with Lisa. After that final conversation with Jenna, I felt a strange mix of relief and determination. I knew I needed to protect my future with Lisa, and part of that meant ensuring Jenna and Jake couldn't disrupt our lives any further. I decided it was time to take action, to gather the evidence I needed to fully expose their motives and ensure they had no hold over me. I spent the next few days meticulously going through old messages, emails, and social media posts. I reached out to mutual friends discreetly, piecing together a timeline of Jenna's and Jake's interactions over the years. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Their communication had been ongoing, and there were hints that Jenna's return was not as spontaneous as she had claimed. With a clear picture in mind, I decided to print out the most incriminating messages and emails. The evidence showed Jenna's desperation and Jake's misguided attempts to help her, both of which underscored their disrespect for my boundaries. Armed with this information, I was ready to confront Jake one last time and put an end to this chapter of my life. I arranged to meet him at his apartment, choosing a time when I knew we wouldn't be interrupted. When I arrived, I laid the printed messages out on the table between us. "These," I said, pointing to the papers, are the reasons you need to stay out of my life from now on. Jenna came back with your encouragement, and that's unacceptable." Jake looked stunned as he read through the messages. "I didn't realize it had gotten this bad," he muttered. "I was just trying to help." "Helping her meant hurting me again," I replied. "You both need to understand that I'm moving on, and you can't be a part of my life anymore. Respect that, or I'll have no choice but to cut ties completely." Jake nodded, looking remorseful. "I get it. I'm sorry. I won't interfere anymore." With that, I left, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The evidence was clear, and now both Jenna and Jake knew that I was serious about protecting my future with Lisa. It was time to focus on my upcoming wedding and the life I was building, free from the shadows of the past. As the wedding day drew nearer, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. Lisa noticed the change in me, and I could see the relief in her eyes as I shared bits and pieces of what had transpired. I wanted her to know that I was fully committed to our future, without the lingering ghosts of my past. The confrontation with Jake and Jenna had been necessary, but it was equally important for me to ensure that Lisa felt secure and understood everything. I sat her down one evening, determined to be completely transparent. I recounted the entire ordeal, from Jenna's reappearance to my final confrontation with Jake. Lisa listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to understanding. "I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that," she said softly when I finished. "But I'm glad you told me. We need to face everything together." Her words were a balm to my soul. We spent the rest of the evening talking about our future, our plans, and our dreams. It was a conversation that reaffirmed our bond and reminded me of why I had fallen in love with her in the first place. The wedding day arrived, and as I stood at the altar, waiting for Lisa, I felt a sense of peace. My past, with all its pain and betrayal, was finally behind me. When Lisa walked down the aisle, radiant and full of love, I knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter. Surrounded by friends and family who truly cared for us, we exchanged vows and promised to support each other through whatever life might bring. As we celebrated with our loved ones, I felt a deep gratitude for the journey that had brought me to this moment. The trials and tribulations had shaped me, but they didn't define me. With Lisa by my side, I was ready to face the future, stronger and more resilient than ever before. In the weeks following the wedding, Lisa and I settled into our new life together. The sense of relief and happiness was palpable. We enjoyed our honeymoon, free from the shadows of the past, and returned home feeling rejuvenated and excited for what lay ahead. However, the experience with Jenna and Jake had taught me the importance of vigilance and transparency in relationships. I made it a point to be open with Lisa about my feelings, fears, and hopes. We established a habit of regular, honest conversations about our lives and our relationship. This openness strengthened our bond and built a foundation of trust that could withstand any challenge. We also decided to seek therapy together, not because our relationship was in trouble, but because we wanted to ensure we had the tools to navigate any future issues effectively. My relationship with my family also began to heal. Jake and I started to rebuild our connection slowly, with clear boundaries in place. He understood the hurt he had caused and was genuinely remorseful. While it would take time to fully trust him again, I was willing to give our relationship a chance. My parents, relieved to see us making amends, supported our efforts and encouraged us to move forward. Professionally, I felt more focused than ever. The clarity I had gained from confronting my past allowed me to pursue my goals with renewed vigor. I took on new projects, invested in my personal growth, and sought out opportunities to mentor others who might be struggling with their own challenges. Sharing my story, I hope to offer some solace and guidance to those navigating their own difficult paths. Throughout this period, one lesson stood out above all others: the importance of resilience and self-awareness. Life would always present challenges, but facing them head-on, with honesty and integrity, was the key to overcoming them. As time went on, Lisa and I continued to build a life together that was fulfilling and full of joy. We embraced new experiences, whether it was traveling to new places, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying quiet moments at home. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, fortified by the lessons learned from the past. Reflecting on the entire ordeal, I realized that the key to moving forward had been to address the issues directly and not let them fester. Confronting Jenna and Jake had been difficult, but it had provided the closure I needed. The experience had also taught me the importance of clear communication and setting boundaries. These principles had become cornerstones in my relationship with Lisa and in my personal growth. To anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation, my advice is to confront the issues head-on, but do so with a focus on resolution rather than retribution. Address problems openly and honestly, and don't be afraid to set firm boundaries to protect your well-being. Trust your instincts and prioritize relationships that are built on mutual respect and honesty. It's crucial to acknowledge your past, learn from it, and use those lessons to create a better future. As for me, I moved forward with a sense of peace and purpose. The past had shaped who I was, but it no longer defined my future. I was ready to face whatever life had in store, with Lisa by my side and a renewed appreciation for the strength and resilience that had carried me through.